A little bird's first flight, how a mouse inspired a bird. The first flight, perched nervously on the edge of the nest, Ori the baby bird peered down at the ground far below. It seemed so very far away. His wings felt too small and fragile, not yet ready for their first flight. Ori glanced anxiously at his fellow hatchlings. One by one, they leaped from the nest, fluttering their feathered wings as they drifted down. But Ori could not bring himself to take that leap. Just then, Ori felt a gentle nudging at his back. He turned to see Mama Bird prodding him with her beak. "It's time, little one," she said. "You have to leave the nest to find your wings." "But what if I can't fly?" Ori squeaked. "What if I fall?" Mama Bird gave him a reassuring nuzzle. "I know you're afraid, Ori. But you'll never know what you're capable of if you don't try." Ori nodded, but his doubt still clung to him like the little bits of down that dotted his feathers. "Look inside yourself and find that spark of courage," Mama Bird urged. "It's there, I promise." Ori closed his eyes and searched within. At first he felt only a small flutter of fear in his chest. But then he found it, a tiny ember of bravery. "You can do this," he told himself. It was time to have faith. Ori opened his eyes with newfound determination. He turned to Mama Bird and nodded. Then, with a deep breath, he stretched his wings out wide and leapt from the nest. The air rushed around him as he plunged toward the ground. For a few terrifying moments he was in freefall, wings pinned to his sides. But as the soil neared, Ori's survival instincts kicked in. His wings extended and began fluttering as he had seen his siblings do. Slowly, Ori felt himself gliding instead of plunging. He gave another strong flap, then another. He was flying. Up and up he soared, the wind holding him aloft. As Ori wheeled through the sky, the clouds within reach, his heart swelled. He had found that spark of faith in himself, and it had given him the courage to leave the nest behind. Though doubts may come again, Ori knew he would never forget this moment. The moment he dared to spread his wings and discovered he could fly. The owl's tale of the brave mouse, still reveling in the thrill of his first flight, Ori almost didn't notice the large horned owl perched on a branch above him. "Quite the triumphant flight, young Ori," the owl said wisely. "But I sense a lingering worry in your heart." Ori landed next to the owl, surprised that the elder bird had known his name and his doubts. "I did fly this time," Ori said. "But what if next time I fail?" The owl's eyes glowed with warmth. "Ah, your first flight was just the beginning, little one. There will be many challenges ahead. But never forget what you accomplished today." The owl then told Ori the tale of a young mouse named Pip who desperately wanted to bell the dangerous cat that stalked his people. All the other mice thought it was impossible. But Pip kept faith in himself. Night after night, he snuck into the cat's den while she slept. Each time he tied a bell to her collar, only to have it removed when the cat woke. Still he persisted. One night, after many failures, Pip tied the bell extra tight. When morning came, the bell still jangled around the cat's neck. Pip's faith had paid off, but he never would have succeeded if he had given up, the owl said. "You must believe in yourself, Ori, even when no one else does." Ori straightened up, resolve growing within him. If a tiny mouse could bell the cat, perhaps Ori could overcome anything with enough faith. The owl smiled at seeing the fire return to the young bird's eyes. His story had helped fan that spark of courage into a burning flame. Believing in oneself. In the days that followed, Ori replayed the owl's story over and over in his mind. He drew strength from the brave mouse's perseverance. Ori reminded himself that if Pip could bell the dangerous cat, he could overcome his own doubts and fears. When his wings felt too small or the winds too strong, he remembered the mouse's courage. But outer courage was not enough. Ori realized he needed to cultivate the same kind of belief within himself. So he started each morning by telling himself, "I can fly. My wings are strong." At night, he would list that day's accomplishments, every air current ridden, every new height reached. Ori practiced flying through stormy skies. Reaffirming his faith in himself even as the raindrops pelted his feathers. On a particularly blustery day, Ori felt himself being buffeted by harsh winds. His instincts told him to turn back, that the conditions were too dangerous, but then he imagined Pip persistently creeping into the cat's den night after night. If a tiny mouse could bell the beast who hunted him, Ori could withstand a little wind. Ori gritted his beak and pushed forward. Before long, he flew out of the storm clouds and into clear skies. Triumphant, he soared above a vibrant rainbow. The owl's story had helped Ori understand that outer courage requires inner faith. By believing in himself, even when doubts crept in, he was mastering the art of flight. Taking wing. Over the next few weeks, Ori's confidence and skill grew each day. He flew higher, faster, and farther than any of his hatchmates. While they stuck close to the nest, Ori explored new horizons. He darted over meadows and looped through forests. With his trusty wings, nowhere was off limits. One morning, as Ori set off on another adventure, he spotted a familiar wise owl watching over him. "Look how you soar, young one," the owl exclaimed. "You have truly mastered the skies." Ori smiled at his mentor, grateful for the guidance. "I never could have done it without your story," he said. "You helped me find faith in myself." "The faith was in you all along," the owl replied. "I only fanned a small spark into a flame." Ori's chest feathers swelled with pride. Then with a flap of his powerful wings, he rose toward the open blue sky. Upward he climbed, filled with the joy of flight. He danced among the puffy white clouds before diving back down again. As the landscape zipped by below, Ori felt overwhelming gratitude. The owl's story had pushed him to unlock his potential when doubt crept in. Ori realized that self-belief and a willingness to try, even in the face of fear, were the real keys to flying high. With his inner light stoked, he could achieve anything. As Ori soared freely through the air, he knew this was just the beginning of the wonders his wings would discover.